After 4 years of defying precedents in the White House, President Trump is on track to make American history once again, becoming the only commander-in-chief to be impeached twice. House Democrats are leading the effort today, charging the president with incitement of insurrection following last week's deadly violence at the Capitol. And so the House voted last night to demand that Vice President Mike Pence invoke the 25th Amendment, but he says he won't remove President Trump from office. So Nancy Cordes is following the very latest for us in Washington, and she joins us. Nancy, Democrats are also getting support from some key Republicans. I think that is one of the big differences between the last time the president was impeached and what's happening now.
Right, and one of the biggest surprises is the bombshell that came in the form of a New York Times report last night that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has now told associates that impeachment could actually help his party move past President Trump. And that could completely change the dynamics of the Senate trial to come. Now, over on the House side, ahead of today's vote, GOP support for impeachment is growing by the hour. A member of Republican leadership is now on board. She calls it a vote of conscience.
There has never been a greater betrayal by a president of the United States. Those are the blistering words from the third-ranking House Republican, Wyoming's Liz Cheney, who says she will vote today to impeach President Trump. She'll be joined by at least 4 other Republicans, including John Katko of New York.
To allow the President of the United States to incite this attack without consequences is a direct threat to the future of this democracy.
The House is set to pass one article of impeachment, incitement of insurrection, arguing President Trump encouraged his supporters to obstruct the electoral count and the peaceful transition of power, adding that his actions resulted in the terrorist attack that occurred last week. Nor did he swiftly denounce the violence. Last night, House Democrats made a final and ultimately unsuccessful attempt to urge the vice president to invoke the 25th Amendment.
Never before has the president sought to overturn a fair and secure election.
The president's actions demonstrate his absolute inability to discharge the most basic and fundamental powers and duties of his office. Therefore, the president must be removed from office immediately.
Many in the president's party will vote against impeachment again.
Everybody in this country knows that they wanted to impeach President Trump on his first day in office. And it looks like they're going to want to impeach him on his last day, too.
They're going to do impeachment. They're going to do it again. They've been obsessed with it.
The president is arguing the same.
The impeachment hoax is a continuation of the greatest and most vicious witch hunt in the history of our country.
In Texas yesterday, he took no responsibility and claimed there was nothing wrong with the speech he gave just before his supporters stormed the Capitol.
It's been analyzed, and people thought that what I said was totally appropriate.
But today's impeachment, with its high-level Republican support, suggests otherwise.
The impeachment process is now moving so swiftly that last night House Speaker Nancy Pelosi named the 9 House managers who will argue this case in a Senate trial. In the last impeachment, it took her nearly a month to name her managers. It's the clearest possible sign, Anne-Marie, that she plans on sending this article of impeachment to the Senate for a trial right away, even though President-elect Biden is about to be sworn in.
So speaking of these managers, who are they? Why was Congressman Raskin leading the effort?
Well, he was really the force behind this 25th Amendment resolution calling on Vice President Pence to have the president removed. He knows these issues very well. He's on the House Judiciary Committee. He's a former constitutional law professor, and so he's been very involved in this fight so far, and he is seen as someone who knows the issues incredibly well. He is joined on that list by the 2 co-authors of this House impeachment resolution that they're going to be voting on today. Ted Lieu of California, David Cicilline of Rhode Island. They authored that article of impeachment, incitement of insurrection, while they were sheltering during Wednesday's attack on the Capitol. The other members, it's really like last time, a mix. Speaker Pelosi has said in the past that she seeks diversity, not just of age and ethnicity, but also where people are from in the country, their longevity in Congress, and many of these are, of course, are lawyers and members of the House Judiciary Committee, which is the committee where normally impeachment first gets debated before it goes to the House floor, although we're obviously looking at a truncated process this time. One thing that did surprise me, Anne Marie, is the fact that there are so many people on this list of House impeachment managers. 9 managers. That's even more than last time. And it makes you wonder how long Speaker Pelosi thinks this trial is actually going to last, because you would assume, now that we're looking at one article of impeachment, not 2, that a more concise storyline about exactly what happened here, not the very confusing, Ukrainian plot that everyone had to wade through last time with so many different players, people who had been interviewed. You would think that you would need fewer House impeachment managers this time around, but we're looking at a full slate of 9.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is we are finding out more and more information about what happened on Wednesday, more video being released, and who knows, maybe she's anticipating even more evidence than what we're aware of. You also mentioned, and we talked about this with Molly earlier, that House Republican leadership, they are not pressing members to vote in any particular way. Right. This is also a departure, because this is a group that largely has stayed in lockstep with the president. Any deviation was often frowned upon. So how significant is this?
Right. Well, once one of the members of House leadership has said that she is going to vote yes, it's hard for that same group of leadership to tell everyone else that they need to vote no. And so that is one of the complicating factors here. Clearly, President Trump, to some degree, has lost his grip on the House GOP. He isn't able to tweet threats to individual members right now. He isn't able to call them out the way he normally would. Right now, in a normal situation, he would be railing against Liz Cheney on Twitter and on John Katko of New York and the others who have come out in favor of impeachment. And that might have a chilling effect on other Republicans who are on the fence. But he has lost his Twitter account. He can't do that. The White House itself is in disarray. Some people have departed. So there really isn't anyone at the White House to put much pressure on House Republicans. And frankly, the White House kind of forfeited that ability when the House was overrun by Trump supporters last week. I'm not sure that those exhortations would really have much effect on House members at this point. I do expect the majority of House Republicans to vote against impeaching the president, both because they think that it's too little too late and because many of them still support the president. But you are going to see a significant chunk. How large that'll be, a dozen, a couple dozen, 3 dozen, we still don't know. It makes it especially difficult to track when House Republicans aren't whipping this vote, aren't telling people how they should vote. So they're not keeping a tally themselves, which makes it a little harder for us to know exactly how many Republicans are on board unless they come out publicly and say so the way that Congresswoman Cheney has.
Yeah, you make a really interesting point. Congresswoman Cheney's speech was a very strong and critical speech, critical of the president. It's not the first time she's criticized the president. The president has gone after her. But boy, what a difference it makes when the president does not have access to his Twitter account. He would have been, throughout her speech, probably, criticizing her point by point. And I've heard some people suggest that her speech and her saying that she would support this process, this impeachment process, has given other Republicans cover. The type of cover that maybe she would, if that's true, that she wouldn't be able to do to the same extent if the president had been sort of tearing her apart in real time.
Absolutely. And I also think it is no accident that we learned about Leader McConnell's feelings on the eve of this House impeachment vote. He runs the Senate, but obviously the signals that he's sending that he welcomes a Senate trial completely changes the dynamics for a lot of these House Republicans who might otherwise have said, well, what's the point of me sticking my neck out and voting to impeach this president and taking all this heat from my own Republican constituents and maybe even facing death threats when it's just going to go down in the Senate anyway. But suddenly, if the Senate Republican leader is signaling that he's on board, at least with the impeachment process, not necessarily saying he's going to vote to convict in the end, but he's on board for the process, then suddenly as a House Republican, you're making a very different calculus. You're saying, you know what, maybe this will survive in the Senate. Maybe a group of 17 Republicans or more will vote to convict this president, remove him from office, and make sure that he can never run again. And so I will have a lot of political cover here, an umbrella to go ahead and vote to impeach. So that's another reason why it's so hard right now, Anne-Marie, even though this vote is only a half a day away, it's so hard to predict exactly how many House Republicans are going to vote yes, because in the next couple hours, we could have another big influential Republican come out in favor of impeachment, and they bring along with them a couple dozen Republicans who say, you know what, if they're willing to pull the trigger, then I am too.
Listen, before we let you go, in the aftermath of the attack on the Capitol, it wasn't just the president that people were blaming, but also other lawmakers that were supportive of his false narrative about a stolen election. And now we're hearing some really interesting things. Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill, she is a Democrat from New Jersey. She put out a video on Facebook last night, and she made some pretty strong accusations about other members of the House and Senate. I want to play some of that.
And so not only do I intend to see that the president is removed and never runs for office again and doesn't have access to classified material, I also intend to see that those members of Congress who embedded him, those members of Congress who had groups coming through the Capitol that I saw on January 5th, a reconnaissance for the next day, those members of Congress that incited this violent crowd, those members of Congress that attempted to help our president undermine our democracy. I'm going to see that they're held accountable, and if necessary, ensure that they don't serve in Congress.
So we heard from the acting district attorney of D.C. saying that the public would be shocked if we knew all that they knew. Now, we have this congresswoman suggesting that other lawmakers were complicit, I don't know, knowingly or unknowingly, but what do we know about these claims, and are they being investigated?
They absolutely are being investigated, and I can tell you this is a real bombshell. This is not going to be the last we have heard of this, Anne-Marie, because Congresswoman Sherrill is not a flamethrower. She is not a fabulist. She is a former military helicopter pilot. She would not put something like this out there unless she really believed what she had seen. She didn't give any details about which of her colleagues she felt that she had seen taking groups on a reconnaissance of the Capitol the day before, but it would be pretty difficult to mistake what she was seeing because the Capitol has been locked down to all outside visitors for 9 months now. So if she did see a member taking a group of people around the Capitol, that would cause some eyebrows. I'm surprised these days when I see 3 people walking around together who aren't members of Congress. There just isn't anyone else in the building except for the members and a few aides. So I don't doubt that she believes what she saw, and I think that this is going to raise the level of scrutiny tremendously. And this is also what has led to the existence of metal detectors for the first time that I know of outside the House floor last night during a vote, because Speaker Pelosi, the Capitol Police have now determined that the best thing to ensure safety is to make sure that even the members of Congress themselves go through medical detectors, which is something that angered a lot of Republicans last night because this is something they typically do not have to do to get anywhere in the Capitol.
Quite frankly, I'm already shocked at the information that we are learning, and to know that there could be even more it's stunning and it's disturbing. Nancy, thank you so much.
You're welcome.